In the months following the Second Battle of Deep Space Nine, the Federation Starfleet and Klingon fleet was suffering staggering defeats at the hands of the Dominion forces, which seemed relentless in their push into Federation space. In such a short time span, the Dominion had been able to advance past the demilitarized zone, securing the area around Deep Space Nine and advancing well into Federation space into the Argolis cluster, establishing a foothold several light years from Beta Z. With supply lines stretched thin and needing to gather itself for the next offensive, the Dominion slowed their advance. One of their main goals was to establish a steady supply of Ketracel White to provide for the Jem'Hadar soldiers. This vital substance provided the loyalty of the Jem'Hadar through a necessary supplement that, if not taken, would drive the soldiers mad. With the minefield blocking the Bajoran wormhole, no Ketracel White could make its way from the Gamma Quadrant. The Dominion needed a supply in the Alpha Quadrant. Luckily for them, the Sona had the capacity to produce the substance. In order to receive Ketracel White from the Sona, the Dominion needed to gain a foothold so that their supply ships would not get ambushed by Allied forces while transporting the substance. Starfleet intelligence detected the buildup and movement of a Dominion Cardassian fleet which seemed ready to move in the direction of the Tyra system. Starfleet concluded the Dominion were attempting to establish a route to move Ketracel White through. If the Dominion could be kept from obtaining a steady supply, then the war could turn in the favor of the Allies because it would deprive the Dominion of the drug which ensured their soldiers' loyalty and sanity. So a plan was put into place. The 7th Fleet, under the command of Admiral D'Gret, would move and block the Dominion advance at Tyra. The 7th Fleet consisted of 112 ships ranging in class from Miranda, Excelsior, Galaxy, with the odd Akira and Steamrunner thrown into the mix. D'Gret would place his flag on the USS North Star, a Nebula-class starship. The Cardassian Dominion fleet was led by Gul Pettar and consisted of 248 vessels. His flag was on board the Cardassian destroyer Gevrock. Outnumbered 2-1, the 7th Fleet moved into Tyra and awaited the arrival of the Dominion forces. Once at Tyra, Admiral D'Gret placed the 7th Fleet in a defensive formation between the 6th and 7th planets of the system. The ships aligned themselves in a typical defensive formation and nothing was put in a strategic reserve. Pettar and his fleet arrived later than the 7th and began immediately probing the Federation lines. For several days, both sides engaged in hit-and-run attacks. The constant attacks and the fact that the 7th was already under strength following losses from the siege of Sector 21607 took its toll on Federation crews. Seeing how D'Gret had positioned his ships between both planets, Pettar decided to perform a pincer maneuver and attack from various sides, with the end goal of destroying the 7th Fleet. Pettar proceeded to split his force into 3 wings. One commanded by him would attack straight on, while the other 2 circled around the flanks of D'Gret's fleet and attacked from the rear. In the first wave of Pettar's attack, 15 ships of the 7th Fleet were destroyed and several more damaged or disabled. Soon after, with the enemy attacking from the rear, the Starfleet vessels could not maneuver and were caught in a crossfire. The second wave of Dominion Cardassian vessels saw Pettar's flagship engage D'Gret's. Both flagships battled it out until the North Star was destroyed by a torpedo volley from Pettar's flagship. With the flagship destroyed, the 7th Fleet began to disintegrate. Units began breaking formation and forming ad hoc groups to continue the fight, while others began to flee. After an hour or so of combat with dozens of more vessels destroyed or disabled, outgunned and outnumbered, the remnants of the 7th Fleet began to retreat. The retreating elements later reported seeing the Dominion destroying ships no longer capable of fighting, leaving no survivors in their wake. Out of 112 ships that made up the 7th Fleet, 14 survived the battle, all heavily damaged. Dominion losses, although not well reported, were expected at low to none. Word of the defeat spread quickly, worsening the morale of Allied forces, while bolstering those of the Dominion Cardassian alliance as they were handed another stunning victory. The aftermath of the battle saw the Dominion push forward and establish a link to a source of Ketracel White. A large swath of Federation space was also now under Dominion control, dooming all those that lived on planets that fell into their hands. Beta Z, an important Federation member world, was now threatened with Dominion forces poised to attack from various directions. It was indeed a dark time not just for Starfleet, but for the Federation and the Alpha Quadrant.